Well, hello everybody. It's been a little while for a number of reasons. The reasons being me taking a trip across Europe, which was a bucket load of fun. And now I've muted that, which I always forget to do. Yeah, taking a trip across Europe, coming home, catching COVID, feeling generally pretty meh, and generally life getting in the way, which is a bit of a pain, but hey ho. Yes, we're back. It's that crazy Englishman with another Battletech CCG trading card game, collectible card game, whatever you want to call it. Uh, Stream, Twitch, whatever again. And today, excuse me, still suffering a little, we have for you a little Liao politics subterfuge deck, which is based around the political Stranglehold card. And this was put on Facebook, and people said, oh, yeah, quite like it, yada, yada, yada. And then someone popped up and said, oh, I'd love Silly Wiz to go and have a review and tell me what you think of it. So after a few posts saying, yes, we can do it, and the guy that did the deck agreeing, then here we are. And if you can see it on the screen, great. If not, don't worry, I'll zoom it up in a minute. I have the posted deck in front of me, and if I can get myself together, and normally I'm reasonably organised, and I've forgotten to do this one. I have a little bit of the dialogue from what was posted on Facebook. Sorry for the flicker there. Any suggestions or changes would make? One weakness I can see is the rush of a free deploy swarm, so I'm main decking Rocky Gorge combo to help mitigate cards. I'm questioning Red Jack and Romano, but currently they're there to help with Hasty Alliance. Okay, so I've created the deck, and bottom middle of the screen down here there is this view tiled button, which is really nice. And I've used the little scroll on the mouse to zoom up a little. I know I've hidden myself behind a few cards. If I take them out, then I think we're probably viewable enough at this point. So let's have a look at what's going on here. And as you can see in the middle here, there are what can only be described as a bucket load of politics, and I think when you actually count them up and look at them, there are 18 politics. Okay, I don't think you're going to be resource denying this one by killing the politics. My first thought is, do you need 18? Do you need 18 for the deck, or can you diversify into one or two of the other assets? And if so, what do they bring, and do they increase or improve the deck? So I think there's realms to look at that and customise and tweak that. Certainly 18 politics is pretty reliable. You're not going to run out of politics, but does another asset bring you something else? Second after that, there are 4 war funds. Sorry, not war funds, black market connections. Wow. Shows where I am headwise if I'm thinking those are war funds. And that seems quite a lot to me. Okay. That's a lot of recycle, and that's a lot of scrap, because every time you use a black market connections, if you can read it in the top left, maybe I can even pull that out a little more for you, that my wonderful readers viewers to see. If I go and, yeah, this looks better, doesn't it? Get my head out of the way. Then you can see on that black market connections, tap it for a resource, okay, scrap 2 cards from your hand and pull any card from your scrap heap back. So that's a lot of recycling, and also that's a lot of cards that you're throwing away effectively to get something back. So that's quite an interesting decision, for want of a better phrase there. Okay, so what else have we got? There is one misrouted command only, just a misrouted command, which seems a little strange. Just the one. I mean, okay, it can have an effect, but you normally run a number of them to remove things. We have 3 political strangleholds, and apologies for the clipping of the name. I'll have to have a look at that in a second. But 3 political strangleholds. Now, this is quite an interesting card. It's a 4 cost, and it costs 4 politics. Scrap this card when it's revealed. Choose an opponent during that opponent's next turn. So that's the entire turn. So that covers your draw phase, any deployments you make, and your missions. And that's another important factor. Every card he or she draws is scrapped. So this triggers, you draw 2 cards, you scrap them. So forget your draw phase. You play a hidden reserves and draw 3 cards, they get scrapped. Fine. Anything that you draw, so if we look at some of the potential draw cards here, like maybe dropship site. In fact, let's have a quick his dropship site. Oh, come on. It doesn't like the view. So here's dropship site. Resource, tap, draw a card. Scrapped. Gone. Disappears. What else does it? Operations Liaison. One of my other little nice ones. This one's fine. Look at the top 5 cards of your hand. Put one of those cards into your hand. That works because it doesn't say draw, I think. Hold on. Restock the rest in any order. So, political. Any card he or she draws is scrapped. Operations, put those cards in your hand. Is it a draw? That's an interesting one. I think I might even have to put that on the group. I think Operation gets around it because it says put them in your hand. It doesn't say draw them. But okay, we'll come back to you on that one. All right. So political stranglehold. Let me go back to the tiled view. Political stranglehold. A very powerful card. It can lock the game down. And having talked on the Facebook group, that is the theme of this deck. The idea being to recycle political strangleholds and lock your opponent down. As it's a 4p cost, first of all, that's not going to happen straight off because there's no way they're going to pay for a 4-cost unit. And secondly, and I know what you're thinking at this point, oh, that's so overpowered, I'm never going to draw a card and I'm never going to get a mech on the table or I'm never going to play. They have to recycle it. It's 1 turn. So I'm guessing this is why there's a large amount of black market connections so that these can get recycled. There's only 3 of them in the deck. So that's 1 in the first 20 cards. Say you start with 6, draw 2 a turn, 7 turns of 2 draws, 14 cards, 20. So 7 turns on average with 3 of them in the deck. This will pop up after 7 turns potentially. I think there is scope to improve the number of political strangleholds in the deck, but even if you get them to, and at this point I will point out that this deck is for league play, so the card limit for league play is 5. So 5 of those in 60 cards, 1 every 12. Start with 6, draw another 6, turn 4, turn 5 is probably when this is going to hit the table. So if you're playing against this deck, it's probably important to get some sort of board presence quite early, so that whilst your card draw is cut off, you can still go on missions, you can still play mission cards, you can still attack things. And I think that is probably the key to playing against this deck. Okay. So there are all our resources. There are all our 4 black markets, 1 miss route, and 3 political strangleholds. interesting to compare Misroute, which costs 3-6p and basically taps a unit for 3 turns, against Political Stranglehold, which is 4-4p, which basically stops you drawing 2 cards. So Misroute delays a thing on the table. Political Stranglehold effectively removes 2 things, which could be 2 units. Okay, it could be 2 resources or 2 missions or any combination thereof from the game. So arguably Political is quite a strong card in that respect. Okay. We have some mechs. We have the wonderfully ubiquitous Locust from the League set, with its 1/3/2 dash a kill ability, and then the extra AP value to kill resources, and a generic cost of 1. In here there are 5 of those. There are 5 of the chargers, which are 0-3p free deploys. You're playing Liao because of Political Stranglehold. You're playing Politics. It's a free deploy. It's medium. It's a 1/3/1 overheat 1+1. It's a 2 damage chump blocking cheap mech. Seems a really, really good choice in this particular deck. And then just below that, while we're here, we have the Vindicator Revised. It's slow, but it's a 1/6/3 jump and long range 1, and it's a straight 2. Again, seems a pretty good choice for this deck. You're running Politics, so the lack of the resource buyout here is really good. And then the other League card is the Revised Catapult, which is a 2/6/1 missile 2 overheat 2+2 jump. Missiles in League play do not require munitions in play. So this has got 2 missiles, which could, on average do 1.5 now because of that, and it overheats 2+2. It's quite nice. I quite like it here. The lack of the buyouts on the particular mech itself are quite nice. The only thing that sways me a little is the 4 cost, and I'll come on to that in a minute. So I think we'll just park that and look at what else is in the deck. Okay. So we have 2 falsified maps, 3 rocky gorges. Okay, and I know that these were main deck because they were worried about swarms, particularly the free deploy stuff. My personal feeling is I don't think you need them in here. If you're gonna worry about that, then it's sideboard. Maybe you might play 1 Rocky Gorge in the main deck and sideboard the rest. And the feeling for that is that generally Rocky Gorge is reasonably good most of the time. You'll probably get your money's worth out of it. It's probably a fair way to evaluate it. Whereas in this deck at the moment, there are no Politics. The Locust doesn't jump. The Charger doesn't jump. Not Politics, Tactics. Shitloads of Politics in there, you fool. The Catapult jumps and the Vindicator jumps. So there are 5 mechs with jump, and the deck also packs Red Jack Ryan. So you could effectively steal your opponent's tactics. So there's only 11 sources of initiative in the deck. So I'm not convinced that having the mission card in this main deck is a good move anyway. I think if you dropped a couple of Politics for a couple of think tanks, then maybe it's viable. But at the moment, I would say it's not very likely to be played, or you've got to pin yourself down to having one of your 2 jump mechs in a battle, and they're both slow. So if the other guy's got a fast mech or a medium mech, you're not going to block. So I wouldn't put this main deck. I would go sideboard with that. I would probably take all 3 gorges out and then see where my deck went after I'd played around with it, and then add the one of them if I wanted. You may decide that you want a different terrain. That is an option. Okay. And there are 4 hasty alliances. And the idea behind the hasty alliance is to put down one of Red Jack, Romano, and Dr. Ariel Reed, and use Hasty Alliance to pull Sun Tzu. Okay, so it's a bit of a combination, but we'll just have a look at the other uniques. Red Jack is featured recently. He's quite popular. He does look like the Battletech version of Grandad Gollum. And he does look like he needs to get some proper hair products. He says, untap a resource card an opponent controls and gain control of it until the end of the turn. Use this during your so basically he's giving you an extra resource. The great thing about Red Jack is he's 0-4p. You've got politics all over the place. Out he goes, no cost, just a deployment, which is great value. Okay. Dr. Ariel Reed, 0-3p, again, good cost. Tap, put a unique command card from your scrap heap into your hand. As all the uniques in this deck are command, basically she helps you to recycle your uniques, which is quite good. After that, she's just a unique in play. And Romano Liao, reveal the top card of an opponent's stockpile. If it's a resource card, your opponent deploys it immediately. If it's not a resource card, scrap it. So if it's a resource, it goes down. So you give them another resource, and then next turn you can steal it with Red Jack. If it's not a resource, scrap it. Okay, it's an interesting combination. And arguably interesting with Political Stranglehold, because if it's not a resource, you're going to scrap it, and everything they draw is scrap. So is the idea to kind of get them into a stalemate and whittle down their stockpile each turn. Okay. And then finally we have Sun Tzu, which is put a subterfuge card from your scrap heap into your hand. And there's no surprises here. You tap him and you get your Political Stranglehold, which is the subterfuge card, back. Okay, so it's cheaper than Black Market, which with 4 black markets in the deck seems a little overkill if you're running Sun Tzu. I'm guessing the idea is to put one of the uniques out first, tap a hasty, and then put the unique down. The only thing I'd say is that there are 4 uniques and 4 hasties, which that's getting a bit thin for me. And finally we have Maximilian Liao's Legacy. Okay, he's a unique, but he is a legacy card, and he basically relies on you having Liao cards in play. If there are no Liao cards in play, he gets scrapped. And I clarified this after a game I was playing the other day with Ian Winters, when we were talking about when does the legacy get scrapped, and I went to the Facebook page being reasonably confident that I knew it was going to happen, although I was understanding, and Ian and I came to a mutually agreed decision about it. And basically it's a constant check. So as soon as you run out of Liao cards, this guy goes, and he doesn't count. He does not count because it says other than. Okay. Yeah, bit of a wordy one here. If you control no Liao cards in play, scrap him. He is a Liao card himself, so how can you scrap him if he's already in there? There was a ruling on that said he doesn't count towards it. So anyway, we'll put that there. You ignore construction costs when you activate subterfuge cards. So the idea is Sun Tzu brings them back. Max's Legacy. Note that Sun Tzu is also a Liao card. Here he is with his little green swordy symbol on the left-hand side in the triangle. So the idea is he brings them back, and the Legacy allows you to pay for them for free. And you can perpetually recycle that. And effectively at that point, the game is possibly over. And I use possibly because there's a lot of things that can happen. This isn't an instant lock on turn 1 or turn 2. This is probably going to happen about turn 5 to 7, maybe even longer depending on draws. And to that extent, what's on the board before there is going to have quite a significant impact. So Red Jack has no Liao affiliation, neither does Dr. Ariel Reed. Romano does. And then we're down to the mechs. Okay, Locust is generic, Charger is Liao, Catapult's Liao, Vindicator's Liao. So you could actually mech hunt and remove a lot of these. And once there are no Liao cards in play, then the legacy fizzles. Yeah, he can bring it black with black market, but there's none on the table when it fizzles. It means he's got to put another one down. So much as you might say, oh, political stranglehold, it's a lock, I can't break it, I actually think it's possible. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm saying it's possible. And the fact that you've got to pay 4 for this political stranglehold means that this isn't going to go off straight away. Right. So, taking this a step further, one of the cards I would have thought here that isn't is Sen Shang. Liao card, restock a card from your hand and draw a card. Basically, recycles a card in your hand. So I would have thought that would have been a natural include in here. Maybe it's another something in place of a Rocky Gorge. Okay. So I've talked about where Sun Tzu, Max's Legacy, and Political Stranglehold fit in. But that is reliant on you drawing them and having the Liao cards in play. If you don't draw Sun Tzu, Max's Legacy, or one of your other 2, 3, maybe Sen Shang, 4 uniques, and or the Hasty Alliance to go and get them, then this deck is a lot slower. And the other reason it's a lot slower is the black market connections. And that sounds strange. But if you think about it, you have 5 cards in your hand, you draw 1 on your first turn, you play 1, you have 5 cards in your hand, on turn 2 you draw 2 cards, you play 2. So your hand is naturally at 5 cards. Okay. So with these charges which are free deploy, people throw them out and then they still use all 2 deployments. So these, although they're on the table, it's effectively your hand size is 1 less. And for a black market, I need to sacrifice 2 cards. Okay, maybe I can sacrifice a few spare politics and whatever else, but that takes my hand size down. So if I've thrown out 1 charger and my hand is now at 4, and I've black marketed and you've thrown away 2 politics to recycle my political stranglehold, then I'm going to have 2 cards in my hand. Next turn I'm going to play 2 and I'm going to sack 2 in order to bring that back effectively. So my hand is going to go down again. And all of a sudden I have to sack either Liao cards or units that I'm drawing in order to maintain my political stranglehold, or other black markets or other uniques. And that is actually a weakness of this particular deck. The hand size does not basically allow you to run or recycle political stranglehold through black market connections more than 3 times, really. So you could get away with 3 turns, and obviously it's what you draw. If you draw a political stranglehold, then obviously that's great and you don't have to recycle and it gives you another turn. But at the moment with 3 of them, that's unlikely. So there are weaknesses, and there is no draw in this deck at all. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 charges go flying straight out early on. The person playing this deck is effectively going to have a hand of 0, and there's no draw and there's no restock. So I would suggest that if you are going to go down the Hasty Alliance unique route, that you need some draw cards in there, and that means you probably need to change some of your politics out and put some logistics in for something like hidden reserves. And I'll just flash that up. So hidden reserves, scrap a card when it's revealed, draw 3 cards. So effectively 2 of these are going to give you 3 more goes on black market effectively. Obviously, if you can find the combination with Max and Sunny, then great. So it just seems that with 3 Hasties, and Hasty, and this is the other thing, Hasty draws 1 unique. So you're probably going to go Sun Tzu first in order to recycle your political stranglehold, and then you've still got to pay for it. And that, if you think about it, if that's turn 4, say, you've probably got 4 resources on the table. You can probably play a political stranglehold if you've got one in your hand. And then you've got a black market to recycle it again. And there's no way of drawing the black markets. You can't pull them with war funds, and war fund under league rules, and there are no war funds in this deck. So this is far from perfect for anybody that's saying political stranglehold is broken and then the deck's broken and whatever else. If this was league play, I wouldn't play this as it stands. I think there are opportunities for it. Okay. Secondly, and I can't do it. Excuse me a second. I can't do it here. I've got to go and do it another way. But there is the good old. I've got to find it. Where are we? I've got to pull a different version of Lackey up to show you the card that would arguably be perfect for this deck, which is Task Force Serpent. I'm just going to pull this across for the moment, hopefully in there. Now this is the original version. Scrap when revealed, search your stockpile for 3 unique cards and up to 2 uniques, and show those cards to all players. Put them in your hand, shuffle it afterwards. Okay, so the idea here being you get Sunny, you get Max, and you go and pick 3 of those little charges up with politics and start slapping them out. The problem with Task Force Serpent is that you can abuse that by, because it says up to 3 units and up to 2 uniques, you can then go and use it to draw 3 more units and thin your deck out if you can recycle it again. So one of the things that was done with this card when it was or tweaked was that once you've used it, you removed it from the game, and that I think is quite balanced. You're paying 5 cost to draw 5 cards, which is a pretty good deal, with a big politics buyout, and if you remove it from the game, that's pretty balanced in my opinion. The problem here is that it's been banned from the league, and there's no reason for it. It's listed on the bans, and therefore its use in this deck, which would be very good, goes out the window. If it was viable, sorry, let me rephrase that. If it was playable, i.e. unbanned, I would suggest that you didn't even bother with Hasty Alliance at all. You just ran Task Force Serpent, Sun Tzu and Max, and played the deck more like a mech deck, and then when that came up, you utilised the abilities to make a difference. So, anyway, let's have a look at a couple of versions of the deck that I started to play around with. And again, I'm going to go for the tiled view. And you can see here we've got Sunny and Max again. Sen Shang is in there in order to help with the draw. The political strangleholds have gone up to the max count of 5. And there is the inclusion of the 5 locusts, the 5 chargers, the 5 Jägermech revised, which is a Liao card. So it still counts like the catapult, 163 long range, 1 anti-aircraft, blocking VTOL rubbish and all that kind of stuff. And I also put in, and this is going to shock a load of people, the zero cost Irby. And the reason for this is it's zero cost. It's a Liao card. It's cheap. So all of a sudden we have 25 Liao mechs, 5 sets of 5. Okay. And we've got the Vindy as well from last time. The politics drops. The black market drops. But we've included Earthworks. And this is quite an important, or for me, a good addition to the deck. One, it's a 2/2 politics card. It's a resource, so you can tap it for that, but it provides assembly, which is quite nice. It circumvents that 1A buyout on our Irby, which is only 1A anyway. Paying 1 for an Irby isn't the end of the world, really, but it gets around that. And secondly, it has this little ability which says, activate one of your mechs under construction that is within 2 resources of being fully constructed. Well, all of our Vindicators are 2. So if we put them on the table, they're within 2 costs of being constructed. So we can just activate that and not pay the count. Secondly, our Jaeger mechs are the same. They are a 2 cost. So we can activate those with no counters on them. Our Irby, with that in play, comes out for free. Our Charger is free effectively, and we might pay 1 for our Locusts. But the point here is that if I'm paying 4 for my political stranglehold, I've got nothing left, or potentially I could have nothing left to put a mech on the table. I've used all my resources. If I've got 4 resources on the table, let's just say 1 at a draw. I've had 4 draws, so that's 8 cards on top of my original 5, 13 out of 60. So that's 1 in 4. So I should have a political stranglehold. And if I've got 4 resources on the table and a political stranglehold is what I want to play, there's my deployment. So I've got to either put another resource down, which I might not want to do because that's my black market food, or I can put a 2-cost unit down and tap my Earthworks and still get it out each turn. So the idea here being that I'm starting to build up more and more of a board presence because my mechs are cheap. And to be honest, up until this point, I can just play this as a pure swarm deck with 25 mechs in it. The ruling for war funds is that it can find a resource card that provides an asset. Earthworks provides assembly. Okay, bear in mind that's a league rule again about finding the asset. So Earthworks provides assembly. So I can pull this with my war funds if I want, whenever I want, providing I've got my war funds. Simple as that. So I can go and get this when I need it if I've got a war funds on the table, which is really good. Okay. The other cards I included here are Manipulation of Romano, which taps all guarding mechs. So this is a finisher card. So most of my mechs are slow. My Vindys have got long range 1, which is nice. I can send those across and punch a few through. But if they're going to try and block my fast stuff, I can tap all those guarding mechs. So if you need something to kind of finish the game off, you can tap those guarding mechs, and then all of your lot just tool over and finish the game. Sen Shang we've talked about. The other card I've put in is Death Commando Strike. And again, it's a politics card. And literally it says, scrap it when it's revealed. Choose any command card in play or any card under construction and scrap it. That's any command card. So that's any pilot, anything like Sun Tzu, Max's Legacy, if the guy's playing it. So it's powerful. If the guy's got a terrain card out, he's put a Rocky Gorge down, it scraps it. So it's quite niche, quite powerful. You can't get rid of mechs with it and whatever else, but it does give you a lot of utility. and I think that's arguably a little better than maybe a gorge. But you'll notice that we've taken all the hasty alliances out, we've taken the rocky gorges and the falsified maps out, and we've literally gone for Sun Tzu and Max. And if we draw them, we draw them. If we don't draw them, we don't draw them. But because of that, we've got a couple of black markets, we've got more political strangleholds in there. Okay, maybe we haven't quite as got much recycling, but I've got more mechs on the table. So literally you can play this as a swarm and start dropping things left, right and centre. And then when things get a little even in the middle of the game, you can start hitting the political stranglehold. And that's kind of where you possibly be in a position to hold your own up until that point against a vehicle swarm, and then this will hit when it and stop the hidden reserves draw for more units. The rest of your units, your Jaeger mech, the Urbies is quite durable, your Vindis are quite durable, so you can play it as a slow swarm. So that's one option. Okay. And just so you can see, 5 Locust, 5 Charger, Jaeger mech, Urbies and Vindis. A straight 16 politics. Again, you could probably drop a couple for think tanks or whatever else. But because we're not as reliant on the political stranglehold and sacking, then maybe you could drop a couple of logistics, put a couple of hidden reserves in if you want. Earthworks to support the swarm. So the idea here is that you can win by playing a swarm, lots of cheap units, or you can win by your political stranglehold. So it gives you a couple of avenues to play, or you can win by a bit of a combination of each, having more units than them and playing wisely, and then using Sunny and Max and Senshang as a bit of a bonus. So you're not reliant on these. If they come out, great. If they don't come out, you can still win. And that was where I was kind of going with that version. And then there is a third version. And I think this version is a bit more to show cards to explore for this particular type of deck. Okay. So we've still got Max, Senshang, Sunny, and the 5 political strangleholds, 1 manipulation of Romano, and we've kept our 15 mechs of Locust, Charger, Jaeger mechs, Urbies and Vindis, and dropped our politics. But this time we've got a few extra logistics, and we have unnamed sources. And this is an interesting card that a lot of people don't like, but in the right case, it's very, very good. And it was used quite a lot in the Mechless deck. And what would happen is the player would kind of turtle their hand, so they would just draw cards and draw cards and draw cards, and not play a great deal. And the reason being that the more you draw, then when you get to your unnamed sources, it's more of your deck that you can sort through, because unnamed sources says for 2 plus 6 politics, draw as many cards as in your hand and then choose and restock that many cards. So if I've got 10 cards in my hand, I draw 10 cards from my deck, I choose 10 that I want to keep, and then I put the rest back at the bottom, and it gives you an extra deployment. So it allows you to deck cycle. And if you've got something like 10 cards, then you've actually gone through 20 cards in total, a third of your entire deck, plus what you've obviously drawn. So quite useful in that kind of thing. And then what would happen with Mechless, and maybe could be something to explore here, is that you would then have a deployment rush. So you've got, say you've kept 3 chargers, they can go out straight away. And then you could use something like Mech Hanger. We'll just close this off and have a quick look. You could use a Mech Hanger to tap and make an additional deployment. So I could pay 2 for that, tap it and put it down. We could use a fast deployment. Again, scrap it when revealed, make 3 additional deployments this turn. So you could turtle your hand, build it up, use unnamed resources, sort all the way through until what you wanted, pick a few of these cards, and literally have a monster turn where you drop 3 charges for free, use this and drop another 3 or 4 deployments, and all of a sudden you've dumped half of your hand or even 6-8 cards onto the table, which is a possibility. The other card that I thought of, and I kind of brought it up earlier, was your operations liaison, where for a resource you look at the top 5 cards of your stockpile, put one of them in your hand, and then recycle the others. So from that point of view, it allows you to cycle through your deck. It's very underrated, but it's actually very, very useful in this type of deck, which, let's face it, if you were playing Magic, you would say this is a blue control deck. And that's the feeling I got at the start. So you can tweak these. You can take out your unnamed sources. You can take out your operations liaisons. You can put some other logistics cards in there. You can go with your fast deployments or your mech hangers if you want them, or other cards that would allow you to do that if that's how you want to play. The other thing I'm going to say is that, as well as your mechs, your other Liao cards in play are Zhenxiang and Sunny. Now, Sunny is a 5 armor, 1 structure unique, which makes him, and everyone's saying it, I know, I've said it so many times, it makes him arrow 4 bait. That's why people put arrow 4 in the back. Sen is slightly different, he's a 1/3. But realistically, a 4-cost fast mech, like a Fenris A, and not a Fenris A, a Phantom A, for example, can pick him off. So if he's in play, or either the uniques in play, then if they're going to get rid of the legacy, then this needs to go one way or another, and the most appropriate way is to attack it. So how do you prevent that? Well, there are a couple. You can play Fog Shrouded Moors on your command post, which means everything attacking it does 1 less damage, which means 2 dashers, for example, can't kill Sunny because they're only doing 2 each. 0, 2, 3 damage each, less 1, they're doing 2 each, which basically pings off his armor. You need 3 attack units to do that. So a Fog Shrouded Moors might be a card you could put in play in order to protect your command post and where your uniques are. And I've got to just do a little bit of research because I can never remember which one it is. I always get them mixed up. So I'm just doing a search for terrain. And is it Heavy Woods? Heavy Woods is arguably something else that could go there. When you activate the card, put it in one of your regions, scrap all terrain cards, prevent 2 damage to the target. So if the guy is attacking with 2 mechs, this is arguably better compared to Fog Shrouded Moors. If it's attacking with 3 mechs, which Moors tends to promote, then Moors is better. Am I right on that? Yes, I think I am. Prevent 2 damage. So he becomes a 5, 6, 7, 1. So you need 8 damage. So you still need 3 dashers. Fog Shrouded Moors, you still need 3 dashers. I don't think in the 3 attack it makes much difference. However, when you look at Zhenxiang, who's a 1/3, and you're sending across your Phantom A, Fog Shrouded Moors will work, and that will go down. But 2 dashers can kill it. 2 dashers, 0, 2, 3, less 1 on each from Fog Shrouded Moors does 4, which is enough to kill kill him. However, Heavy Woods is prevent 2, so he becomes a 1/3, which is 4 plus 2, 6. So it's the same damage, isn't it? So it's an interesting one between Heavy Woods and Fog Shrouded Moors, but you could put either in there in order to mitigate the damage. You could be quite politically ruthless and put a civilian settlement in there so that every time they kill one of their resources, they take 2 damage themselves. It's 1 damage per 3 counters. That would be quite nasty, and it makes for some interesting decisions. Rolling Hills doesn't work. So I think if you're worried about the guy picking off these 2, then you have a look at Fog Shrouded and Heavy Woods in order to pick them off. I mean, Heavy Woods is arguably a bit better versus missiles. So I suppose it depends on what kind of deck they're playing. I think my preference would be, if I was playing this in League, is to play it as a cheap swarm with politics, and from that point of view, use the political strangleholds as a method of slowing my opponent down, which is only going to benefit me because I'm playing with a greater number of units, and literally trying to achieve more board presence than them. You might decide that maybe you want to tweak a couple of cards in order to put some finishes in. That's perfectly valid and fine. But the deck in League play suffers quite badly because of the Task Force Serpent banning. If Task Force Serpent was there in its removed from the game form, I would say there is merit in looking at Hasty Alliance. As it doesn't, or is not available, I don't think Haste is going to bring you enough. You're only going to pull 1 unique with Hasty, whereas Task Force pulls 2, and I think there is a world of difference between them. And I don't think running 4 uniques and 4 Hasties is worth it, because I think you run short in other areas and the deck isn't cohesive. And finally, this is a way of packing in 5 political strangleholds and not 3. And I think with 3 in the deck, you're at risk of not drawing them when you need or want to draw them. So that would be my advice. Don't listen to it. Go and do what you want to do. Go and try it. Go and play with it. Go and have some fun with it, and come to your own conclusions on that. I certainly think that there is merit to Earthworks in this deck. I think Death Commando Strike, even if you don't put it in the main deck, is a very good and very flexible sideboard card. You could easily drop that to the sideboard and put something else in here. You know, maybe drop another black market in, or something else that you want. Maybe drop a politics or 3 or 5 and put some logistics in and add something else. Maybe run a tactics and run a final push, for example, to finish instead of manipulation of Romano. We'll just put that in place. Let me just put that in there. So everything gets long range too. So you've got a game finisher. It's totally valid. It totally works. So I think there is scope, but I think you're going to have to change the main focus a bit and probably look to run Political Stranglehold as a support mechanism instead of a main theme of the deck, because of the absence of Task Force and your reliability on Sunny and Max to get you through on that. Yes, it's great when you pull them, but my question is what happens when you don't? And in the first version of the deck that we saw earlier, you're going to run out of cards quite quickly, to the effect that the other guy hasn't drawn any cards, which is fine, but you actually haven't got any left yourself. And then it's a case of who's got the biggest stick in order to end the game out, or what do they draw in their next 2 or 3 hands. And given the distribution of resources, then that mid-game double resource draw is a killer. So interesting, room for improvement. Go play it, ignore me, go try what you want to do, and see how it goes, and let us know. I'd be interested to see how it performed, what you do to the deck, and how it ends up, and what your feelings are for it. But thank you for the submission, thank you for the fun, thank you for the opportunity to look at it. It's been a bit of a quandary, to be honest with you, not the easiest one to say what to do with it. So that's going to end this afternoon's, well, it's afternoon in the UK for me. I am going to be back soon. I'm planning on streaming early this week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, one of those two. Stay tuned for more news. Again, I've got a deck that I want to go through, a deck that I think is quite interesting, and possibly something like you've never seen before, which I think could be fun. And then, as a sneak preview, next weekend I'm going to be streaming, and I'm going to be streaming not only me, but a couple of other people as well. You might be able to guess who they are, but I'm not going to tell you because that takes the suspense away. But I'm going to be streaming with a couple of other people, and there's going to be 3 of us in here. Hopefully, if I can get everything to work properly. And we're going to be having a look at something a little new, a little special. And then after that, because I've announced that I'm going to run a tournament in January, which is a sealed tournament, which I don't think we've ever done before. I'm going to do a number of streams over the next few weeks about what sealed is, how it works, how I unpicked it, because I had to do a lot of work to unpick it in order to make it work, and lackey development, and looking at some of the Commander's Edition of decks. So I'm going to have a number of streams on that, maybe 4 or 5 or something like that, with various focuses, in order to support those people that are interested in playing a sealed tournament. And it's free for anybody, so if you want to come along, sign up for it. I felt that doing it free for all those people after Christmas was a good way of allowing them to buy their small children Christmas presents and not feel guilty about paying a fee to play a Battletech tournament. And it's a good way to start a year and other things, and generally be generous to everyone else. So those are on the cards, or that's on the cards, and hopefully I'll see you soon for another stream at some point. Take care. It's a big bad word out there, and hopefully I'll catch you soon. Oh, and if you like what you're seeing, hit the follow button so you know that when I'm coming back to talk more verbalage for everybody, you get to know, and you can run in the opposite direction. So take care, everyone, and I'll catch you soon.